Welcome back to Mandu. We're about to watch a parole hearing for a man who was sentenced to life for second-degree murder because of Act 122, which we can jump into later. He's being given a chance of parole for the first time. Also, after the hearing, we'll go over the transcript that details the entire crime. But with that, let's jump in. And also, please do like and subscribe. It helps the algo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would the offender please give us his full name and his Department of Corrections ID?
My name is F Mayho. My ID number is 298479.
Good morning, Mr. Mayho. My name is Alvin Roche. To my left is Mr. Anthony Marabella. To my right is Mr. Pete Freeman. We will compose your panel this morning. Let me explain the process to you. I will read some information into the record. Once I read that information into the record, we'll conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we allow the warden Falgood, to make comments if he wishes. And then at the appropriate time, we allow your supporters. And if there's any opposition, we will allow them at the same time to make a statement of their choice. After all that is over, before we vote, we will allow you to make a brief statement on your behalf. Do you understand the process?
Yes, sir.
Before we get started, Mr. Mayho, I want to first recognize your attorney Tom Alamo. Would you please introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, sir. My name is Tom Allman, and in conjunction with the Promise of Justice Initiative, I represent Mr. Mayho in connection with this process. Thank you.
Okay, and the pronunciation is Alderman.
Yes, sir.
South Louisiana, we have sort of a different pronunciation.
I had a dear friend from Napoleonville who was constantly calling me Aleman, so I will stipulate to either.
Okay, thank you, sir. And would you like to make your statement at the end of the hearing or at the beginning?
I think at the end, please.
Thank you, sir. Also, we have Mr. Karen Myers, the Louisiana Parole Project, Mr. Damian Mayho, your brother, Ms. Cynthia Tony, your fiance, and she would like to speak, and Reverend Harold Sandoval.
Sankville.
And he is a friend and he would like to speak. And those persons will be called on at the appropriate time. Mr. Mayho, your case has been assigned to Mr. Marabella. Would you please answer? Well, first of all, let me read the information into the record. Mr. Mayho, you were born on August 22nd, 1966. You were a first felony offender. You are now under Act 122. Your offenses are, well, in this case, you were first convicted of second-degree murder. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then in 2017, they amended the sentence to 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And they amended the life sentence to 40 years each count, total sentence 80 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And your parole date was August 1st, 2021. Your good time date is March 1st, 2030, and your full term date February 23rd, 2071. Is all this information correct?
Yes, it is.
The case has been assigned to Mr. Marabella. Would you please answer Mr. Marabella's questions?
Good morning, Mr. Mayho. How are you? I'm Tony Marabella. I'll be starting this interview process. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayho, my calculation shows that you're 56. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I am.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
31 years.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background.
I went to regular school before I came here. I got my GED in 1984 from Walter L. Coyne in New Orleans, Louisiana. I started going to a community college for mechanical drafting. Then I got into the truck driving business after I got my CDLs in Pensacola, Florida. And I just took off with that there, driving truck for a budget rental car and graphic paper company. I've done that for about 5 years until I caught discharge. And then from there, I came to Louisiana State Penitentiary. It was offered to me again to get another GED because they didn't have any records of my other GED. So I took advantage of that program and I got my GED here. I think that was in 95. And from there, I just took various classes, self-help classes, rehabilitative classes. Then I asked to go to trade school, to Votech school, and I went to automotive, carpentry.
And we'll talk about
And,
those in just a second. I was mainly interested in your school learning, okay?
All right.
You've answered that question and I appreciate it. Now, back when this occurred, you were 31 years old, I think. And how old were you at the time? This
I was 22.
22? 22?
22.
Were you driving the truck? What were you doing at this point in terms of making a living?
I was working for a budget rental car at that time.
Okay. Now tell me what happened back in '89. You obviously are in prison now, initially for murder charge and now 2 attempted murder charges. So tell me exactly what happened. I've read the reports, I've read everything, but I'd like to see, tell me what you recall happened.
Oh, sir, it was a Sunday, July 12th, 1989. It was a Sunday. I was with my girlfriend. We normally go to lunch and then we go to the movies every Sunday. I got a call from a friend I went to school with named Empressina Wilson. She asked me to come pick her up. She lived in a homeless shelter or something like that. She asked me to come pick her up to bring her somewhere to get some hair care products. And
Now, Ms. Wilson was not your girlfriend.
No, sir. My girlfriend name was June Woodard.
Okay, good.
Right. I let my girlfriend know where I was going, and I'll be approximately so many hours getting back to her. I left her at her mom's house. I went, picked up Empressina. She didn't give me a direct address. All right, she just was like, turn here, go here, and stuff like this here. So when we got to an area what they call New Orleans East, she directed me to pull over by a warehouse. I pulled over, the warehouse is like on my right, and the street is in front of me. And then you make a right turn. She got out the car, I left. She left me in the car. She got out, she turned the corner. When she turned the corner, there's a fence or something. I couldn't see which way she's going. After about 15, 20 minutes, I approximately think, I got tired of waiting because my girlfriend waiting on me. And I went round the corner in the car. I don't know where she went. I didn't see her. I was tapping the horn, bump, bump, bump. I got down the block. It was a dead end street. I pulled in a driveway to back out so I could turn around. And in the process of me coming out of that driveway, a bunch people, I would say kids, like, oh, just went to throwing water balloons at my car. And I'm like, what's going on here? You know, and I pull up a little ways. I'm still in the middle of the road with the street. And as I'm going down the street, I seen Empressina running out of a house. I seen a guy that I don't know what's going on. He's grabbing her and holding her and look like they fighting or something like this. He had like a tree or a bush or something that was kind of obstructing my full view. I got out the car and I'm like, you know, what's going on? What y'all doing? You know, come on, I ain't got time for this. She proceeded to the car where she broke loose from the guy. She got a baby. I don't know where this baby come from. I don't know nothing about this. And she gets in the car. The baby's screaming and going crazy. The baby's like 2 years old. Empressina, she's real quiet. She don't talk that much. And when she do talk, she's real soft in her speech. So I'm trying to get her to tell me what's going on. And she's just basically looking at me. And as I'm driving off, not that far, maybe 20 feet, maybe, I'm looking in the rearview mirror. I see a lady. She's in the middle of the street and she's doing this. And to me, that's a sign of stop, you know, wait, I need to talk to you or something. So I stopped. I got out the car.
She in front or behind you?
She's behind me. I see
Okay.
her through the rearview mirror. When I got out the car, she walked up to me. And at the same time, I see a lot of people, maybe approximately half a block away in there, coming my way. And she had some kind of walking cane or something like this here. And she swung it at me. And I drew my weapon out. I had it in the door jamb in the car. And I took it out. And I had it by my leg. And I'm still seeing people coming my way and stuff. And I went to load the gun. It was a 32 automatic, semi-automatic, and it was registered in my name, and I legally bought it. And when I went to load it to shoot in the air, because I see all these people coming at me, you know, to me aggressive way, because my car just got bombarded with water balloons and all this stuff here, and everything. So I'm kind of like in a sense of heightened awareness. And the gun got jammed. And I'm standing in the middle of the street, and the lady is coming towards me with the walking stick again. And I'm like trying to unjam the gun. And it's like it goes off. My finger was already on the trigger. I heard it go off. I didn't see anyone get hit. I didn't know anyone had got shot. I got in the car. I drove off. I went to my mom's house. Well, no, I dropped off Empressina at the homeless shelter. Then I went to my mom's house. I told her what happened, and I told my girlfriend what happened. My mom, she called around different hospitals and found out that Marvin Mitchell had been shot one time because of my gun. And excuse me. And me and my mom talked, and we talked, and we got a lawyer, and I turned myself in, and I was charged with aggravated battery at first, and then 12 days later he passed. I was rearrested for the second-degree murder, and I went to trial, and everything else is history, I guess.
I got you. Mr. Mayho, let me ask you, did you know the Mitchells at all? Did you know any of those people there?
No, sir, I never knew him. I never knew anything about him. That was my first time seeing him. I didn't even know who it was I had shot.
How did you know Miss Wilson?
I first met her in 7th grade in Carter G. Wilson High, Junior High School. We was in class together. I believe it was an English class, I think. When I first met her. And then after school, after we had graduated and all this and stuff here, I was on my job at the budget, and I was coming down the road, and I seen her. I recognized her from school.
Did you
I
ever
offered her
figure
a
out
ride.
where you brought her and what she was doing in there?
No, sir. All I knew was she asked me to bring her somewhere to get hair care products. She didn't tell me anything about picking up a baby or anything. I was totally blindsided by the whole situation.
Mayho, let's talk a little bit about what you've done while you've been in prison. You've accomplished a lot of things.
Yes,
You've
sir.
got a lot of letters of support. Tell me about some of the programs that you've taken. You talked a little bit about automotive work, the things that you've done here. Tell me the certifications and the work that you've done in terms of your vocational training, what you've done with the reentry program. I've read your letters. I've read the letters from Judge Knight. I've read all of the letters from the ward, the various prison staff who talk very highly of things that you've been able to accomplish. So tell me how you got into that and how you got involved in the reentry court program.
I was at line 37 for I think 11 years. That's considered like heavy equipment or something, or tractors, farm equipment, front end loaders, you name it, whatever. I basically self-taught myself how to operate machinery. I'm mechanically inclined, so that was easy for me to do diesel mechanic work and stuff like this here. I asked Warden Lamontnier to could I go to school, and he put me in. She put me in carpentry school. I have a background also in carpentry. My grandfather was a master carpenter. So I went in there. I finished that there with my certifications in there in like 18 months. And then I went to automotive because I'm mechanically inclined. I love working on cars. I've been doing that since I was about 15 years old. I went through the automotive school, done great in there. They wanted me to be an instructor, but at the same time, I was offered a position in the reentry program as a social mentor. So I figured that I'd be better doing that because I could be directly involved in people's lives and just trying to help people not become in my situation. Whereas, they're out there violating and doing things that's gonna end up like I did. So I took the opportunity to be a mentor. I went through several classes, training to be a mentor, just a number of things. And I went through that.
How long have you done that now?
Excuse me?
How long have you done that now?
It's going on 7 years.
What are some of the other programs that you've taken while you've been in there? One of which I think is victim awareness, and I read
Yes,
your
sir.
letter of apology. I read all of the things that you prepared. What would you say to the family of the victim today if you had an opportunity to say something to them?
Well, it's a good thing you asked, because I really was looking forward to coming to meeting with them face to face through the victim dialogue program. We made it up to the third phase, but the victim family pulled out, for whatever reason, I don't know. But anyway, I would have loved to just tell them that I never meant to harm Marvin. I didn't know him. I didn't have anything against him. I didn't, and Impersina didn't tell me anything about him or maybe coax me into doing anything. None of that happened. I never knew him. It was just a situation that arrived and I panicked and, this happened. And that's why I'm so remorseful and just regret, this whole situation of me leaving my girlfriend where we were supposed to be and going and bring her where I should have just said no, but I didn't. I can't undo that there, but I would tell them that I did not mean to do this here. I'm not going to sit here and say it was an accident because I did it. It was an accident. I did it. But I didn't mean to do this here. I didn't plan on doing this here. And, I just hope that they would understand it wasn't nothing personal, that I targeted their family or anything like this here. it just was a bad situation all the way around.
Mr. Mayho, have you ever had a drinking or drug or alcohol problem?
No, sir. No,
You ever done drugs?
I mean, I have experimented in drugs. I mean, basically everybody in my neighborhood have here and there. But no, I'm.
Were you doing drugs at the time of this offense?
No, sir.
Tell me a little bit about the religious programs that you've done. It's my understanding that you've done some religious work while you've been there, faith-based programs, and that you're doing some community service work. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, sir. I have served as assistant pastor twice. The church at Camp D, the House of Deliverance, and a church congregation here in Maine Prison, Brothers Keeper. But right now I'm a minister on staff at New Destiny Fellowship. I preach, I teach Bible studies. We break down into little cell groups where I'm responsible for 2 other people, where I go and just check with them in the dormitory, walk on the yard with them, give them counseling if they need anything, help them understand scriptures or whatever the case may be. Like yesterday, I went to the dungeon, administrative lockdown, to see a guy, and we pray together and stuff like this here. Just try to, give them what was given to me, because in the year 2000, at Camp D, I was, still kind of confused at that time, with which way I was going. And 2 guys, one of them is still a mentor right now. They pulled me to the side, and they told me I need to make a choice. I need to make a decision which way I wanted to go. Whether I wanted to live for the world or whether I wanted to live for God. And I made that choice, and I have not looked back. I enjoy, praying with people. I enjoy just giving them my testimony to, where God had brought me from and where I'm at now. And it's like, I use my situation almost every day to tell guys what I did, how I was living, and now look at me now and what I'm doing now compared to them, to then. And that's what I do.
In looking at your disciplinary record, you've had, in 31 years, you've had 14 write-ups. Your last one was 2007. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your transition plan. Where will you go, assuming you get a favorable vote today? Where will you go to live? What will you do?
First, I'm going to the parole project first and foremost. Their program, I've heard all about it. They came talk with me. And I know they will be able to help me. I've been calling over 30 years, and there's a lot I need to understand going back into the free world. So I'm going there first. I think I have to stay there for like 1 month. And they'll help me get myself situated with ID and all this good stuff here. Then I'm going to Cynthia Tony's resident at 1218 Feliciana Street in New Orleans, Louisiana. I also have a backup plan. My brother Damien, he's offering, that I could come to Alabama with him, which I hope that's not the case, and stuff. And Cynthia and I plan on being married by December of this year. And for as job-wise, I have a job that's waiting on me. And in the meantime, while I'm doing that job at Early Tree Foundation Repair, I'm gonna get my CDLs again and get back into the truck driving business.
What can you tell us about Mr. Mayho?
Mr. Mayho's been a Class A trustee going back to the 2003, looking at his record, and maybe a little bit beyond that. He has been line 37 and road and levy. He back in 2014. One thing that hadn't been spoken about is that he worked for looks like about a year, a little over a year maybe, as a healthcare orderly on in Cypress 2, one of our assisted living dormitories back at the time while he was going to auto school. And then, as you had said, since 12 of 16, he has been a reentry mentor for moral rehab. So he's done a lot of good work for us here since he's been incarcerated.
Thank you very much, Ward. Appreciate it. Mr. Mayho, I appreciate your answering my questions. That's all the
Yes, sir.
questions. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Freeman? Mr. Freeman has no questions, so we're gonna start off with Mr. Kerry Myers from the Louisiana Parole Project.
Good morning, Board. Kerry Myers, Louisiana Parole Project. One thing that stands out, I think, in this interview is Mr. Mayho's character. He's been a Class A trustee for 22 years without losing that. His recommendations are numerous from prison staff, from the service he's done back to the community that he has. And I just think character stands out here. He has the support of Parole Project, obviously, and after 31 years of incarceration, this is exactly what we're designed to do, to help Mr. Mayho reacclimate into society, and we intend to do that. He also has a strong support system once he finishes with Parole Project. As I'm sure you'll hear, Cynthia, he's known Cynthia for a very long time, even before his incarceration. So this is not new for either one of them. And we just believe that based on the totality of Mr. Mayho's incarceration experience, his plans, his accomplishments, that he's an excellent candidate to be granted today. So we would ask this board to consider granting his parole.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Now we'll hear from Cynthia Tony, Mr. Mayho's fiance, Ms. Tony.
Good morning. First, giving honor to God who has, through his grace and mercy, allowed me life to just be here to speak on Paul's behalf. And secondly, I'd like to thank this honorable board for affording me this privilege to speak. I'd also would like to give thanks to Warden Falgott, staff, warden rank officers, administrators, deputies, and inmate staff for their services within the Department of Corrections in allowing and governing the rehabilitative programs that are giving our loved ones the opportunity to be prepared for possibility of reentry into society. You are all in some way being a catalyst for changed lives, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, academically, vocationally, and socially. I thank you. I've had the honor of meeting and loving Paul for the past 22 plus years. And in doing so, I have witnessed his accomplishments in so many areas of academics, vocational skills, training, social interaction, and mentoring classes, and so much more. Paul is ever learning. His thirst for knowledge and self-empowerment is insatiable. Many of our visits turn into class study, and his strong desire to share what he has been learning with me. Of course, that took up most of our time sometimes, but I've paid attention to the pride he has given to his work ethics and ability to get things done in a timely manner and to motivate others to do the same. I feel he should have been given the name Busy Bee, for he's always buzzing around, trying to put his sting of motivation and innovative ideas into the minds of those who will listen and embrace his compassion to want to see them excel as he does. I've shared in the pain of his remorse, his guilt and hurt regarding the greatest mistake of young, immature judgment that caused his incarceration. Yet, in the midst of it all, he has strived to take on the incarcerated challenges and struggles that has helped shape him into a better man, a God man who fears and reverences God and who has a great appreciation for the grace of life and who attempts to share that same grace principle and love with others. As I find myself growing with and knowing Paul, he has never stopped believing that one day, should he be granted his freedom, that he wants to be gainfully employed, productive in society, a motivational mentor to those who are on the brink of destructive lives and behavior. Of course, he wants to marry me and love me forever. I just thought I'd throw that in. In all humility, I ask that this honorable board to please grant us another chance. I say us because we are a team. In spite of our differences in age and opinion, we work as one unit in strength and in purpose. I ask that the same mercy that God has so graciously favored each of us with on this day, that you grant us the same mercy, giving us an early release. I pray, God, for each and every one of you. I do also want to take this time to say thank you to all of you who have been involved in allowing us to get to this point with all of the ups and downs that we've gone through since this process has started. To our own Mr. Tom Alleman, Mr. Kelly Myers, Attorney Tim Yesbeck in his absence had been trying to get online, having computer problems, to the wardens, to you, the board. And I just trust that should the mercy of God and the divine favor of his grace be shown to us today, I will know and will forever be grateful that you all have played a part to put God's will into action. Thank you so much for your attention.
Tony, very well said. Thank you very much. Paul, I just want to remind you that your brother Damien is here, but he's not going to speak. And we will hear from Dr. Reverend Harold Senfield now, a friend of yours.
Yes, and thank you very much, members of the board, for your time and opportunity to address you in this way. My acquaintance with Paul goes back about 9 years ago. And my relationship with him, you could say, is on two levels. First of all, professional, and secondly, personal. So a little bit about myself. I've been a pastor for 51 years. And I've done a fair amount of writing regarding pastoral theology that is taking care of people's spiritual needs. And I've had a great deal of experience at that. I'm a published author. One of my books won 3 national awards some years ago. And so the board should know I'm a fairly good judge of character, I think, and I can see people's real motivations. So that was my initial acquaintance with him, because something I had written, Paul came across there in Angola and contacted me and inquired whether I could offer him some spiritual help, which I was glad to do. So I would guess over these 9 years, through the JPay email correspondence, we've exchanged messages probably at least twice a month, sometimes 3. We had frequent phone visits as well, many, many times. And so I can say I've gotten to know him very, very well. And so we moved then from the professional, the pastoral relationship to a personal friendship. And so I consider Paul one of my dear friends. As you can see, we come from different cultures, kind of different ends of the spectrum, so to speak. And so humanly speaking, there isn't much in common between us. And yet I can, as I said, I consider him a very deep and good friend because he's been very transparent with me. So putting that together for you, the members of the board, my professional aptitude for reading people, understanding what motivates them. I believe his remorse and sorrow over what happened all those years ago is genuine. I believe with God's help, he is determined to be a contributing member of society and has much to give to his neighbors and friends and to the rest of us who know and love him. So in a nutshell, I really hope that the board will grant the parole. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. At this time, we'll hear from the opposition. First, we'll hear from the victim's sister, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell, would you please unmute the mic, give us your full name and your relationship to the victim.
My full name is Katara Mitchell, and Marvin Mitchell was my oldest brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Whew, this a hard one. I was on one path today to say how I felt, how this oppressed my life.
Ms. Mitchell, can you
Yes.
adjust your camera so we can see?
Oh, you can see me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. I was on one path today to say how this oppressed my life. I'm literally, I'm shaking. I can barely speak after I heard what Mr. Mayo had to say. His account of what happened, it was fabricated. Everything about it was fabricated. I felt one type of way, and it's like now I feel different. But I will still try to get out what I need to say from witnessing this happening and my brother being murdered. He was my older brother, so he was like my dad. He was my protector. That was taken away from me. And in the process of grieving, I was a suicidal teen. My mom never stopped grieving. As a matter of fact, my mom died of a broken heart. She didn't know after her child was taken away from her, she didn't know how to love her kids. Love was taken away from her, and she couldn't properly love us. And the fact that you and God know exactly what happened, this has affected me my whole life. Today, I said I'm going to speak because I need to be set free from this prison. You've been physically in prison, but me, I've been mentally and emotionally in prison. And then today, to hear you give your account of what happened is a bald-faced lie. And I pray you repent because you're lying.
It's Mitchell.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm just a little bit overwhelmed and emotional. When I was younger, they wouldn't allow me to testify because I was in such a fragile state. But now I'm older, but this has it affected me in my life on so many different levels. But you know what? I said my say, and I'm still going to choose to be free because a lie don't care who tell it. I don't have nothing else to say.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. And now we'll hear from Mr. Marvin Mitchell's brother, Mr. Jan Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, would you give your full name? I butchered it up, and give us your statement.
Good morning, board. I appreciate you guys allowing us to come on. I am Pastor Delwine Andre Mitchell Sr. I am now the older brother to my two sisters. I'm as well as like my sister. I had started a dialogue with Mr. Mayo using the different foundations that were set up to have us to meet. I've always felt like it was more to the story. However, that was something that we had to deal with over all of these years. I'm like my sister, I was prepared to totally forgive, move on, and not even deal with this as of this morning. And to listen to his statement of what happened when you guys asked him, sir, I would have to say that was a lie. And it's true when they say the lie don't matter who tell it, it's told. He just told you guys a lie of what subsequently happened on that day. Not to mention, that didn't happen on a Sunday, that happened on a Thursday. Not to mention, my brother didn't die 12 days later, he died 4 days later. Me and my sister both were some very young kids in school that went through years of different counseling sessions. Both of us suicidal. My mother was never the same after that. We basically had to raise one another because my mother checked out. This has been a long time, not to mention the state of Louisiana gave us no heads up to the fact that they changed his sentence from attempted from second degree murder to attempted murder. I'm not understanding that one. My brother was murdered. There was no attempted murder, it was murder. These are the things that we're now finding out as we're talking to you guys here on the live. This was never relayed over to us. Today is our first day hearing what his new charges was and how things has played out. We didn't know any of this. this has been hard. His two sons, raised by my mother until she died a couple of years ago. Them boys have went through hell. One of them is still on medication to today as we speak. And you know who his mother was? Empressina Wilson, the woman that brought this man to my mother's house. So it's a lot of hurt. It's a lot of distrust. And the fact that the majority of my family still lives there in the city of New Orleans. And although I know what he said to the, the victim's impact on people, we never know which way this will actually go. The fact that he just sat there and told you guys a bunch of lies, I now no longer trust him. Whereas at first, I was really willing to forgive and say that it was, something that God himself had to touch and all that. I'm very proud of the things that he has accomplished while he's been in there. But you just undid everything you did inside of jail just by straight up telling that lie to you guys. I'm not for nor against him walking out of the doors of Angola State Penitentiary. But one thing you should be able to do now at this junction, after all of those years of being incarcerated, is tell the truth. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We appreciate it. Now we're going to hear from Mr. Miller, the uncle of the victim.
I believe it's Miss Miller, the niece of the victim.
Okay. You're the niece of the victim. The victim was your uncle.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Miller, would you please give us your full name? And we know the relationship for the niece of Marvin Mitchell.
Yes, full name, Darielle Keontra Miller, and I'm the niece of Marvin Mitchell.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the first thing I will have to say is today I heard a lot of God's will, but it's written in stone, one of God's commandments, thou shalt not kill. The story that Mr. Paul told y'all today, that was not the case. That is not what happened. My uncle Marvin was about 5'8", 5'9", and my uncle was shot in between the eyes. Mr. Paul said that the gun was just jamming. So if the gun is just jamming, you have to be holding the gun straight up to shoot somebody in between the eyes. So statistically, that just doesn't make sense to me. If you're trying to unjam a gun, why is it's pointed straight up in the air? That does not make sense. My uncle was shot on July 12th and he died on July 16th. On July 16th, my life, my family's life changed completely. My grandmother, Marvin's mother, was never the same. My mother, who is Marvin's younger sister, was never the same. On Marvin's birthday and the day that he died, it's certain days I have to completely try to distract my mom so she doesn't realize what day it is, because she's going to completely flip out. On February 2071 was supposed to be your release date. You will be allowed, Mr. Paul, to walk out a door. On that date, my uncle will still be laying in a casket. I think the things that you have done and accomplished over the years, I think that's great. And I hope you found it in your heart to realize what you did was wrong. But I do not believe you do not deserve to step into the free world, because you took that opportunity away from Marvin. My uncle Marvin.
Ms. Miller, speak to the
My
panel.
uncle Marvin had just recently completed the police academy. He was going to be a police officer. So you took someone who was going to do good in the community and you shot and killed them. You said my grandmother had a walking cane coming to you. You're a 20-year-old man, and my grandmother had a walking cane walking towards you.
Ms. Miller must speak to the panel. Do not speak to Mr. Mayho.
Okay, well, to the board, I say, he said my grandmother was walking towards him with a walking cane. Mr. Paul was a 20-year-old man. So even if she was walking towards you with a cane, you're telling me you're a 20-year-old man and you wouldn't physically try to just push her away. You had the gun to my grandmother's head, which he did not say. That's the big part of the story that Mr. Paul is not saying. Before he shot my uncle, he had the gun on my grandmother's head, who had a cane. You're 20 years old. You could have took the cane from her. You pointed a gun to her head.
Ms. Miller, wrap it up, please.
I feel Mr. Paul should remain in jail. I feel thou shalt not kill. And the story he told today to the board, it was a very untrue story.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. At this time, Mr. Mayho? Mr. Mayho?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Would you like to make a brief statement and direct your statement to the board?
Yes, sir. This is just something I wrote this morning. Today I sit before you in the humblest of positions, in my most humble state. I want to say thank you for this opportunity, just to be here before you. I don't take lightly what happened on July 12th, 1989, nor do I take lightly the horrific sin that I committed towards Marvin Mitchell, the hurt and the pain that I caused his family, and the stain that I left on humanity. For my careless actions on July 12, 1989, I brought shame and hurt to my family, especially to my grandparents who raised me to be an upstanding and responsible person, and to my little brother Damien. And with this second, if I get a second opportunity, that I give my solemn word to the Mitchell family, and to the citizens of the state, and to my family, that I would live a positive, law-abiding life and do the best that I can to give back to society in positive assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayho. Attorney Tom Allman, would you like to close the hearing?
Yes, thank you, sir. I met Mr. Mayho approximately 2 years ago. In that period of time, I've acted as his attorney in various matters. In that period of time, I have spoken with an individual who has constantly expressed his regret and remorse for what he did, who has not tried to take unfair advantage of the legal system for small ends. He has continued his education and change. He's, as was indicated, he has completed victim awareness program, anger management training, the 100 hours of pre-release program, and he's attained a second GED while he's been incarcerated. I think his record speaks to the level of change that he has achieved, and I would certainly urge the board and request that the board favorably look upon his application. I cannot express my sorrow for the Mitchell family or regrets as an individual that this ever happened, but the man that stands before you today is not the man that arrived here in 1991. And I hope you will take that into consideration as you assess his request. Thank you. Unless you have any questions, we appreciate the board's understanding.
Thank you, Attorney Allman. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Melville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayho, before I give my thoughts and my vote, I'd like to say to the family of Mr. Mitchell, we hear your pain. I certainly hear your pain. And this process oftentimes relives the past. And it's very difficult on the families of both the victims as well as the families of the defendants sometimes, who are innocent people. it's very difficult to go through this process. But we're not here to relitigate what happened on that particular day. We have a different role than a judge or a DA or a defense lawyer might have. That was all set in motion before we got here today. For whatever reason, the district attorney chose to allow Mr. Mayho to plead guilty to 2 counts of attempted murder and withdraw the plea of the verdict of guilty to second murder. That says something on its own. I've been in the legal profession for nearly 50 years. I was a prosecutor, a defense lawyer, and a judge. So I've got an understanding of probably what happened or why they did what they did. But again, we're not here to relitigate the case. We're here to determine who Mr. Mayho is today as opposed to who he was then, the man who committed this crime. Mr. Mayho, back when this crime was committed, had never been in trouble before. He committed a serious crime and he's taken responsibility for it. While he's been in prison, he has done some very outstanding things. He's got some excellent comments from the warden. I've got at least 5 or 6 or 7 letters from prison staff of the things that he's done over the time he's been in prison. None of that takes away from the pain or the hurt to the victims in this case, and I do understand. But my job today is to determine whether or not Mr. Mayho is a different person, has rehabilitated himself, has taken advantage of the system that we have in place for him to be a good member of society. He's got a very good disciplinary record. He is a low risk. He has helped many people while he's been in prison. He's got a tremendous transition plan and a very good support system when he gets out. For all of those reasons, my vote today is going to be to grant his parole with the following conditions: that he enroll in the Louisiana Parole Project, follow all of their recommendations, and that when he's finally released from the parole project and he goes wherever it is he ultimately will live with the approval of his parole supervisor, that he perform 5 hours of community service work at a court-approved at a place that will help other people to be able to learn from what Mr. Mayho has learned. That would be my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Freeman.
This is a very tough case. Mr. Mayho did take a life. And he affected the family great. But as Mr. Marabella stated, he's a different man in my eyes today. And based on the warden's comments and the rehabilitation programming that he's taking, also vote to grant his parole today.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Before I deliver the final decision, I want to thank the Mitchell and Miller family for appearing. I know it was difficult today to rehash what happened over 20 years ago, and I want to thank you for your comments and your appearance today. Mr. Mayho, you have received 2 votes to grant your request and grant it based upon you being released to the Louisiana Parole Project. I too will vote to grant your release to the Louisiana Parole Project and then to your permanent transition plan in New Orleans or the state of Alabama. Your conditions after release: you will have a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I know you might want to be a commercial driver, so I'm going to tell you, if you have to be out after 9 p.m., you must get permission from your parole officer prior to being out after 9 o'clock and before 6 o'clock in the morning. and your parole officer can give you that permission. And then you are to do 5 hours a month community service with some at-risk youth or some individual or some organization that needs assistance, and you can share your experience of incarceration with them, and hopefully you will reach some disadvantaged youth and will stop them from going in the wrong direction. Today, you have received 3 votes to grant your early release. Your early release has been granted. You have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's unpack this. You know, the bottom line, what happened here is that he really did lie, and the family came in willing to forgive him, and they were willing to forgive him, and he just made up this entire story because we have it's different that we have the transcript, and I'll paste it below, but it's completely different. And there are other things that interesting to point out, which is he even got the date wrong. It wasn't a Sunday, it was a Wednesday. And I Googled it, July 12th was Wednesday. And how do you live with this your entire life and totally get the day wrong and then get the amount of days that the victim took to die? It's almost like, how is that something that for someone that 20 years later you would just get wrong? In his own statement on the stand, he stated that the man was running at him and he was fearful, so he shot him. This is his own defense statement. Not that he was trying to unjam his gun, which he said today. Then there were, of course, the defendant's statements that said that they saw him pointing that he even had a laser pointer on his gun and he was aiming. The details of this report, he literally just got on the stand and made up an entire story. He made up an entire story. I'm not going to read it because I found that when I read them, I don't know, it's just very long, and I'm not so I'll just paste it in there. But the bottom line is that he lied today, and I just feel bad so bad for the victims. They were ready to forgive him. He comes up, he lies, and then it was like the whole board just ignored it. They didn't even address it. They're just like, whatever. Well, they said, we're not here to judge something that happened 20 years ago. But he lied. They always care about that. They always care. Get up there, be honest, and you can get out. And the victims were okay with that as well. But he didn't. He made up a story. And it's just bizarre to me. So strange. He made up a story, and the idea that he thought it was a Sunday, that the person died 12 days later instead of 4 days later, shows me that he hasn't really thought about it that much. Someone can't forget a day that they took someone else's life. You can't mess that up. Yeah, I get that he has a great record and everything, but the idea that the board just ignores the fact that he lied, I don't know how in this case, it was predetermined. They knew that they were going to release him regardless of what he said. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. They knew that they were going to release him. They were not going to change that fact. They just weren't. I just got something in my bag. And that's the insight. That's the takeaway we can see here. And another thing, yeah, the prosecutor reduced it. I mean, the brother, he had such a great point. How do you reduce it to attempted homicide when it was homicide? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And they don't even involve the victim. And because it was the Act 122, don't like, you know, you pass these acts for good reasons, but then you want to bend and turn and warp. It's just weird. Law is weird. Can someone who understands this explain it to me, or just, oh, y'all just crazy? I'm done.